Hey everybody, welcome into the Delmarva Sports Insider. We have a special hour-long show for you this afternoon. I am Sports Director Brandon Bossert.
What is up? It is yours truly, sports anchor Devin J. Martin. Welcome into our Coaches Conference show. We have a packed house today, and we are breaking down all of our high schools here on Delmarva.
Yeah, that's right, Devin. Welcome to your first high school football season.
I'm so excited to be here now, Brandon.
It is a very exciting time of the year. Best time of the year, I think. A few of our local head coaches were able to come down to our studios here in Salisbury, and we'll hear from them in just a bit. But for now, let's send it over to Devin to get things going. Devin?
Thank you, Brandon. First, let's start with the Smyrna Eagles, last year's runner-up in the DIAA 3A playoffs. The Eagles were so close to the title, losing to Middletown 28-22 in the state championship game. They were 9-1 on the year, steamrolling almost everyone they faced, including their first two playoff opponents. They blew out Dover and William Penn in the DIAA playoffs before their championship loss. Players on this roster that will receive a lot of attention are Maryland commit QB Cameron Edge and running back Yamir Knight. Smyrna's first game is against Arundel from Maryland on Friday, September 9th. That game will be played across the bridge. Next, we've got the Sussex Central Golden Knights, another playoff team from the Henlopen North. The Knights finished 6-4 on the year before losing to Salesianum School in the second round of the 3A playoffs. Now, they took a step back last season compared to the previous one when they captured the whole shebang, the whole title. They had the third best defense in the 3A, but also the eighth best offense, which is not as good. Now, Central's first game is at William Penn on September 3rd. And the Riders of Caesar Rodney have nowhere to go but up this upcoming season, and that's because they finished 0-10. That's right, the Riders were one of only two teams in the entire state of Delaware that did not win a single game last season. I think it was a perfect storm of unfortunate circumstances that led to that record. The Riders lost some talent, and they also got reclassified into the 3A, where they faced the best that the state had to offer on a weekly basis. But now, with a year under their belts of adjusting to that new level of competition week in and week out, the Riders should have a few tallies in the win column this season. And third time's the charm. That's got to be what the Blue Raiders from Woodbridge are telling themselves for this season. 2 years in a row, perfect regular seasons. 3 out of the last 4 state championship appearances, including the 2018 state title. And 2 years in a row, losses at the hands of Archmere Academy. Last season, Woodbridge went 10-0, only to get stomped out and shut out by 27 against Archmere. Now, their redemption season starts on September 9th at Cape Henlopen. And can Woodbridge make it back to the title game? Let's send things over to the desk.
All right, and joining me now is assistant head coach for Woodbridge High School, Matt Holmes. Matt, thank you so much for making the drive down here to talk to us today for the Coaches Conference.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. First of all, you guys going undefeated for most of the season up until that championship game against Archmere. Obviously, Archmere is a stellar team, but to lose a championship like that can be very difficult for your players coming into the following season. What are you guys trying to instill in your guys going into this year?
Well, it's definitely a tough way to end the season. Only one team ends a year happy, so to speak. So for us, it was immediately get back to work once we got home from the University of Delaware. For Woodbridge, we have a high expectation for our football program, so we just literally have to turn the page and focus on what's next for us. That was our off-season training, trying to build our numbers, recruit new players, and just build our program. We're in the second year under Coach Dooley, so that's what it is for us, is establish our program and build off of the rich tradition that we already have.
So you guys lose quarterback Seth Smart, you lose Noah Matthews, you lose Wyatt Wright as well. Those are 3 key guys from last year's team. Talk about the leadership that you're seeing step up this year to take over the shoes for those guys from last year.
Absolutely. You don't replace guys like that very easily, but our leadership team has been outstanding, led by a few seniors, Theatric Stones, Quincy Risberg, Amon Young, Yogi, as we call him. Those guys have been really doing a great job for us throughout the summer of getting guys to the school for workouts and off-season training and just buying into what we're teaching as far as our culture and the atmosphere that we want going into the new season and building off those high expectations.
So how has camp been for your team so far? What are the expectations for your team?
Camp has been great. We just finished our first week, had a tough scrimmage last night against William Penn, very competitive, just proud of our effort. Our focus has been rock solid. Again, that's a credit to our leadership council that we have. The expectations, like I said, are high, so we know what's in front of us, but we just try to take it one day at a time and maximize those reps that we get during camp while we have them and just get the most out of those days.
Now, obviously for Woodbridge, you guys have been to the championship a few times over the last few seasons, but you can't take anything for granted in this 2A district, competing against teams like Delmar and Lake Forest and Milford and so on. Do you have to talk to your guys about that because you've had so much success, or is that already a given?
Well, the schedule itself, the way the realignment's been, 2A is the toughest class, I feel like, in the entire state, top to bottom. There are no breaks on our schedule. There's no games off, so to speak. So each week for us is about being who we are and doing the things that we preach and teach throughout the week. So the focus is on Woodbridge. There's no doubt Delmar's a great, rich tradition for football program and school. Milford is a great rival for us, Lake Forest as well. So we get those guys week in, week out. We open up with Cape, who's another 3A school.
Right.
Have St. Mark's on our schedule. So again, there's no breaks, but for us, it's about what we want to do and execute and just be Woodbridge, do the things that we're coached to do.
All right, Coach Holmes, good luck this season, and thank you so much for joining us here today for the Coaches Conference. Coming up next, we're talking with the man at the helm for the Parkside Rams. Don't go anywhere. That and more when Delmarva Sports Insider returns.
I'm the head football coach at Woodbridge High School. You are watching Delmarva Sports Insider.
Now let's get into some of our Bayside teams. We're going to go through the 3 city schools. First, we begin with the Y-High Tribe. Expectations have certainly changed after a 9-win season. Big-name players like B.J. Cook, Malachi Mazzetti, and Jace Freeman are gone, but they have quarterback Darius Foreman returning, a signal caller who can beat you through the air or on the ground. They enter the fall season as one of the top dogs in the Bayside South. The Tribe begins their season hosting Washington Friday, September 2nd. Now, Bennett comes into the fall season under new leadership. Greg Lazinski resigned as Washington's head coach in the spring and made the move to the Shipyard. The Clippers struggled last fall, especially against the best teams in the Bayside. Lazinski says he is a spread offense coach, but he will work to see what type of players he has this summer before deciding what direction he wants to go with his schemes. Now, Bennett hosts Decatur to begin their season Friday, September 2nd at 1 o'clock. And finally, let's talk about our third team, the Parkside Rams. Brendan Riley's squad is coming off an up and down season, but one of the bright spots for the Rams was beating perennial power, North Carolina at the Ridge. The Rams will need to replace star Therese Worthy. They do have senior running back Bryant Waters returning to lead the offense. Parkside kicks off the season hosting Snow Hill at noon on Saturday, September 3rd. And now joining us live in studio is Parkside head coach Brendan Riley. Take it away, Brandon.
Coach, first of all, thank you so much for coming down here and talking with us today.
Not a problem. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. So first, last year, 4-5, not the season that you wanted, but how are you feeling about your club going into the season this time around?
I feel really good about where our kids are at right now. They came in shape. They're getting after it. They're being coachable.
Right.
They're a fun group to be around, and I'm enjoying the atmosphere and the extra time that we've had together.
Yeah. So obviously, we talked about this earlier. In the 2A, there's some impressive clubs out there like Y-High and Decatur. We've got some impressive teams in the Bayside, but you're not focused on that. You're focused more on how your club is doing, correct?
Yeah, I think that's what any good ball club should be doing right now, is not worry about everybody else. Just take care of your own stuff in-house. Just continue to develop each week, and that's what we talk about with our guys. And really, we're in a 1A, 2A. It's a little different now because of the divisions that have been broken up in the state of Maryland. So, yeah, that's all we're going to focus on and just keep getting better.
Now, talk about what you think that your team looks like going into this year. What are some adjectives you would use to describe this group that you have?
I think one is a group that thus far has been able to handle adversity. Again, we've been pushing them in practice. They've been pushing each other. We talk a lot about brotherhood. We talk a lot about getting after it, doing their responsibilities. And I think that's what we're going to continue to kind of focus on and really just being tenacious.
What are going to be some strengths for this Parkside team that we see this year?
I think leadership from guys that are coming back from last year's squad, Bryant Waters, Luke Massarello, Aiden Brinsfield, Jeff Mueller, those guys that are in our squad and have been around for 4 years, I think is a big place. Plus, on top of that, we got some kids that are juniors that are now transitioning in that leadership role. So offensive line, defensive line, our running back game is going to be strong. So we'll see. We'll see how it opens up.
Yeah, offensive line, defensive line. Obviously, a thing about Parkside football is it's always smash mouth and tough, right?
We try to be. We try to be. We put our hat on and get after it a little bit.
So what are some things you would like to see your teammate or your team do better as you go through camp and going into the season?
I think execution and really utilizing the pass, I think is going to be something that we're going to try and focus on more. Being multiple front defensively, changing up a little things here and there, and really just running to the football.
And finally, Coach, what would be a success to you for this club at Parkside? What do you guys have to do in order to have a successful season?
A success to me might be defined differently for everybody else, but really it's just our group of guys playing together as a brotherhood, playing together as a family, getting after it, and we'll let everything else kind of take care of itself.
All right, thanks so much, Coach Riley. Always a pleasure to have you on the set with us.
Appreciate it.
Here in Salisbury. Stay with us because we're coming back with Dover head coach Chip Knapp to talk about his club in Class 3A up in Delaware.
I'm Brendan Riley. I'm the head football coach at Parkside High School, and you're watching Delmarva Sports Insider.
We have 3 Henlopen North teams for you this block. We begin with Milford. The Buccaneers are coming off a 3-6 season that started off promising, but ended with the Bucs losing their 5 games and missing out on the 2A playoffs. Again, they lost those last 5 final games and missed the playoffs. The main problem was that offense averaging just over 5 points per game in their final 5 contests. On defense, teams will have to keep a close eye on Desmond Aladuje, who just committed to Duke and is ready for his senior campaign. Milford travels to Cambridge and will play the Vikings on the 2nd at 7 o'clock. The Cape Henlopen Vikings are another team that had high expectations going into last season, but just did not live up to them. The Vikings went just 1-9 for their final season for head coach J.D. Mall. Mike Frederick now steps in as the new head man in Lewis. Cape fought hard in many of their games last year, but they clearly weren't ready for the transition to playing in the 3A. The Vikings begin their season at Salesianum on Thursday, September 1st. And now down in Dover, the Senators were one of the surprise teams from last season. Chip Knapp's team went a solid 6-4 in the regular season before taking out 8-win St. George's in one of the toughest playoff games you'll see. There will be a tough transition for this team as they lose 19 seniors from that team a year ago. One player to watch on the offensive side is Jaquan Kilby, one of the fastest running backs in the state. We saw him make some highlight runs last year. Dover hosts Arundel from Maryland on the 2nd at 7 p.m. Now there's a look at some of our Henlopen schools. Let's go back to the desk.
All right, now we have Dover head coach Chip Knapp joining us, making the long trip down from Dover. Thank you so much for coming down here, Chip.
Not a problem. It's not that long. It's just straight shot down 13, no problem.
That's all it is. First of all, Coach, last year, you guys were one of the most surprising teams in the Henlopen, I thought. 6-4 record, then you go up to St. George's and win a remarkable playoff game. Lead Smyrna in the 4th quarter of your 2nd playoff game.
Well, not lead. Had a chance to take the lead.
Had the chance to take the lead.
Yeah,
talk about last year's club, first of all, because it was your first year at Dover, correct?
Yeah, I was coming in from Wesley College, and it was kind of in the summertime, and so we had to kind of put things together. I had to learn new faces, new coaches, new schemes, and so it was a challenge right away, and we were going through a learning curve pretty quickly right into the season. The guys responded well, and we were slowly building our team throughout the season, and we had it kind of carried on over into the playoffs, and we felt really good about what we accomplished last year, and we have something to build on now this year.
Now, the thing about building on that success from last year to this year is you lost quite a few players from last year's team, correct?
Yes. I was watching film the other day with our defense, and I noticed that there was no players in the room that were on the film. So that was so I really put in a focus. We have a young team, and that we really need to rush the process, gain some experience early, hopefully practice well so we can be ready for a real tough schedule that we we're facing.
Yeah, it's a gauntlet in the 3A level. Talk about the challenges of having to play that 3A schedule with a young group like you have at Dover.
Well, we're just going to do this, focus on the same things that led to our success last year, and you know, there's no games off. You got the Salesians, Smyrnas, Middletowns, Sussex Central, and on, and so there's just no week. You know, you can't take a week off. You got to practice hard, do all the right things, and hopefully things fall into place on Friday.
Who are some players who are younger that we should be watching for this coming season that's going to make an impact on the field?
Well, the guy I think about first is Jaquan Kilby.
Yeah, I think about him too. He's one of the fastest running backs in the entire state.
Yeah, he's a great track star too, and he's getting a lot of college interest right now. And we're going to have to rely on his experience. He had a great season last year. He plays tailback for us. He's one of the top tailbacks in the state, I believe, and he also plays linebacker. So he's got a big weight on his shoulder. Also coming next year is coming up for this season. John Parker was an all-state type player. He was a freshman, so now he's going to be a sophomore, and he's a big playmaker there as well. And we got a good group, you know, coming. I feel very confident about the young guys coming up. A lot of athletes, but it's going to be a young team. And
one more thing, really quick. What would make a success for Dover High School coming up in this season?
Well, you know, we're trying to build a culture there. We want to see our team come together on that, with that aspect of building a program. We like to continue our success on the field, and like I said, build on what we did last year. We have some high expectations, and we hope to achieve them.
All right, good luck this season, Coach. Thank you so much for coming down. We're taking a quick commercial break, but when we come back, the new head coach for the Bennett Clippers is coming up. Don't go anywhere. That and more when Delmarva Sports Insider returns.
Hey, I'm Daniel Shockley with Dover High Football, and you're watching Delmarva Sports Insider.
The Bayside North is absolutely loaded this year. Let's start with the perennial powerhouse. Up in Ridgely, it was a down year for the Bulldogs, who could just not get in the groove. But they still had some quality wins against Queen Anne's, Easton, and Colonel. But they fell big to Y High and Kent Island. They also lost to Decatur and Parkside. The Bulldogs look to get back to their dominant ways against the Lions in Centerville on the 2nd. Moving over to Queen Anne's now, the Lions won one of the craziest games you will see in Berlin against Decatur. They have one of the top runners in the Bayside in Wilson Smothers, but they will have to prove they are among the elite this season. Head coach Al Waters' squad fell against North Carolina, Y High, and eventually Decatur in the postseason. This year they opened with North Carolina at home on the 2nd. And the Easton Warriors limped their way to a 3-6 record in 2021. Coach McGlinchey is hoping for a bounce-back year for his Warriors. Despite the record, the Warriors came within a touchdown of Y High twice and Kent Island. Easton is led by Kevin O'Connor, who just recently committed to Duke University. Easton hosts Kent Island at 6 p.m. on Friday the 2nd. And another team with a new head coach, the Kent Island Bucks. Kent Island went an incredible 10-1 last season, winning 2 playoff games before ultimately falling to Douglas. Every win but one came by more than a touchdown last season. So this is a really good squad that steps on the field this fall. They are at Easton to begin the campaign. A lot of exciting teams in the Bayside North this season, Brandon. Now back over to you.
Joining us now in studio is the new man at the helm for the Bennett Clippers. It's Greg Lazinski, formerly of the Washington High Jaguars. First of all, we appreciate you being down here with us today for the Coaches Conference.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. First of all, let's talk about what it's like trying to transition over to the Bennett program that has struggled recently. What's it like being a new head coach trying to turn things around with the program?
We're trying to change the culture and build the program. It starts in the off season with getting kids in the weight room. It starts with having a solid coaching staff around me that's committed to helping the kids, putting game plans, that type of stuff, and we have that. And it's also having a solid group of coachable kids, which we do have. They want to come in. They've been working hard so far in camp. They're hungry to win because they haven't experienced it much in the last couple of years.
Now, so far in camp, one thing that you said is one of the challenges has been trying to get all of your players to learn these new schemes. Talk about the challenges of trying to get new players to learn brand new terminology and schemes?
Well, it's like trying to learn a new language. It can't be done overnight, but again, the guys are in there working hard. They're working even whenever the coaches aren't there. We've seen some of that with them. Some of the senior leaders are taking over, trying to teach the young guys. So it's going to take time, but it will happen.
Now, what are some bright spots that you've seen in camp so far? What are some things that have you looking forward to the season?
We do have some pretty talented kids in each level, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors. We don't have a whole lot of seniors, but the guys who do have are going to be big contributors to the team. We also have some younger kids that I'd consider maybe more explosive playmakers. So I think we have a solid mix of some of the bigger, stronger kids and some explosive guys. And again, it's just putting it all together, learning the system, and getting better each week.
Now, it's great to hear that you have a great group of kids in camp. What are some of the things that you really want to see improved on before we get to week 1 of the season?
Just understanding our assignments. Again, it all goes back to learning the scheme. Once we can do that and we can play without thinking so much, we'll play a lot faster. We had our first scrimmage, and you look at the tape, and you see, we weren't playing as fast as what we thought we needed to. So we go back to practice, we work on it. And again, understanding those assignments, we'll get faster as the season goes on and play faster. Just hopefully it happens sooner rather than later.
All right, Coach Lazinski, thank you so much for coming down here today for the Coaches Conference. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And coming up, we'll have more with the head man for the Delmar Wildcats, Mr. Dave Hearn. You're watching Delmarva Sports Insider.
Hey, I am Whitenerson with JMB Football, and you're watching Delmarva Sports Insider.
Time to move over to the 2A schools left in the Henlopen. We begin with the Lake Forest Spartans. Fred Johnson's team started out strong last season, winning 4 of their first 5 games, but a 4-game losing skid in the second half killed their playoff hopes. Jonathan Tyndall returns as one of the brightest young quarterbacks in the state. The Spartans will play at Mount Pleasant on a Saturday morning, September 10th, to kick off their season. And last year's Ravens were the same as last year's Spartans, a Jekyll and Hyde team depending on what part of the schedule you're looking at. The Ravens started slow, going 1-3 in their 4 games before going on a tear, winning 5 of their last 6 and earning a playoff appearance. QB and free safety Jeremiah Handy and fullback/linebacker Jaron Sample look to take the essence of the second half version of the Ravens and carry that momentum into this season. Their first game is September 1st when they host the defending 1A champs, Laurel Bulldogs. And finally, the Delmar Wildcats, seemingly always in that playoff picture. Head coach David Hearn is back for another season, and he has a young group on his hands. The Wildcats will have to replace Jalen Warner's and Trent Kemp's combined 240-plus yards a game in the backfield. Players that look to step up for this year include QB Gavin Powell, Takai Hughie, Brandon Turner, and Jalen Johnson. They open up with a rematch of last year's playoff loss. The Wildcats welcome in Wilmington Friends on the 9th. Now for more on his Wildcats, here's more with head coach David Hearn.
All right, thanks, Devin. Joining me now live in studio is head coach for the Delmar Wildcats, Mr. Dave Hearn, who's been doing it for more than 30 years at Delmar, and he's back once again, and back on the Coaches Conference once again as well. Thank you so much for coming in, Coach.
Thanks for having us.
First, we got to talk about that heartbreaking loss from last year in overtime against Wilmington Friends. You go all the way up to Wilmington, nearly squeak out a win in the playoffs. Talk about that loss and what you've been telling your kids going into this year.
Well, we played the same team that we opened the season with. We played so much better and took them to overtime, had opportunities, and just came up a little bit shy. So you can't really go back and replay it. You can't, and a lot of the guys are gone who were with that team. But there's a lot of them who are on the field, so you can build on that for not making mistakes. Maybe just take that extra step and see if you can find a way.
Now that's one thing about Delmar coming into this season is that you guys are losing many starters from last year's team. Talk about the turnover that you're seeing this year.
Well, we've got a smaller group of seniors, and we have very few starters returning. But out of the kids who are returning, a lot of them got a lot of good, valuable varsity time, including playoff time. So they've got a playoff win under their belt and a tight loss. But we got a lot of kids who spent a lot of time on the field.
Yeah, I think that some people were kind of surprised by the amount of success that Delmar had last year, considering the schedule in the 2A. But this year, it's going to be tough sledding once again with all the new players. But what are some things that you're seeing in camp that are really giving you some positive vibes going into the season?
Well, with the guys we have returning who did have a lot of experience, they're helping us to be able to demonstrate, show a play, show a series, show a defense, and the younger guys can roll. They role model that, and so they're learning fast. We run a complex offense and defense, so there's a lot of learning to it, and that's what the first week has been. But so far, they're grasping very fast.
Now, one thing about a young team is you want to see players stepping up, becoming those leaders for the season. Who are you seeing stepping up so far?
Well, like I said, the guys who got a lot of time, Gavin Powell, Brandon Turner, the guys who are with us tonight, they got a lot of time and quality time. They make big plays on both sides of the ball. Takai, Hugie, these guys, Derek Fuchs are probably our only real all-conference returner. So we don't have a lot of reputation, and so that'll be good because they'll make unexpected success.
Right. So going into this season, what would you categorize as success for the Delmar Wildcats this year?
Finding ways to get more players on the field, have more who by the time we get to the midpoint and the season's rough, we have no easy spots. I hear a lot of coaches saying that tonight. But if we can get a lot of players success early, then they will be that much better by the time it gets crunch time late.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on with us, Coach Hearn. Good luck this season.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it right here. All right. We're taking a commercial break, but when we come back, we are talking with the man in charge of Colonel Richardson. Don't go anywhere. That and more when Delmarva Sports Insider returns.
This is David Hearn. I'm the head coach at Delmarva High School, and you're watching Delmarva Sports Insider.
Go up to the Bayside North, starting with the Kent County Trojans. The Trojans finished 2-8 on the year last season, including losing their first 6 games before getting a win. In that 6-game stretch, the Trojans gave up 308 points and only scored 8. The defense was giving up an average of 51 points a game, and the offense was averaging 1 point a game. Things turned around a little bit for them as they beat Snow Hill and Washington before losing their final 2 games of the year. Their season starts on the 9th at home against Easton. And their division rival Vikings fared much better last year, winning a playoff game, knocking out the Parkside Rams 24-12 before losing to Hartford Tech in the next round. The Cambridge South Dorchester Vikings have had a strong Bayside history. They're one of the leaders all time in the state with 35 playoff appearances, and they have 3 state titles. Now, they didn't win a state title, obviously, but their upset win over Parkside in the playoffs is a good foundation for the Vikings to build off of this season. You can see their season start at Cambridge on the 9th against Milford. And finally, we have the Colonels. They were by far the best out of this group, finishing 8-4 on the year with 2 playoff wins, including a 72-0 rout over Washington and an almost 30-point beatdown over Surrattsville before losing to Edmondson Westside. Now, they started the season 0-2, but then they were on a tear. They won their last 8 out of 10 games, a great confidence boost for the team, and hopefully for their sakes can be replicated this season. Their first game is at home against Seaford on the 2nd at 6 p.m. Some interesting teams in the north and up in 1A, so let's send it over for our next interview.
All right, everyone. We've got James Jackson, the head coach for Colonel Richardson, now in his 3rd year. And it seems like you've really turned the culture around out there in American Corner.
Yeah, just trying to. I mean, just building off what Dan Mangum started. So I'm just trying to follow in his footsteps and continue to get the guys to follow our lead, and I think it's working so far.
Now, last year, you guys were able to do something for the first time in 40 years, win your division title in 1A. How proud of you are of that group that was able to accomplish that last year?
That was big. To do something, to finally have a winning season or go 8-4, win a playoff game, win the North Division title in Colonel history, you know.
That was a fun team to watch.
It was. It was an experienced team, so, you know, with an experienced team, it's always going to be fun when you don't have to coach as much as you do when you got a young team.
Right.
So.
And you were telling me that coming off of the COVID year, having spring football for the base side really helped you guys propel for last year.
Yes, that group. I mean, all those guys were juniors, and then coming off the COVID year, they were, they're all seniors, and you go right into the season from spring to fall, and they already know what to do, and the line knows what blocks to make, and the backs know what holes to hit and everything. So. That was just like you had to do much in the summer getting ready or prepared for the season.
Now this year it's going to be a bit different because you lost a lot of seniors. You have a very young team coming in. You said the O-line is a place of strength for your team. Any other strengths on this team coming in?
The O-line is going to be the strength. Our one wing, Cam Gondek's going to be the other strength. But then everywhere else, we're just young. We're going to be trying to fill holes everywhere. Defensively, we're looking to fill 8 holes there. We're starting with a new quarterback, 2 new tight ends, and a new wing. So it's a lot of holes to be filled. The only thing I can say is our offensive line is experienced. Everywhere else, we're going to be looking to see who we can plug where.
Right. Last year, it was obviously a major success for the program. What would be a success for your program going into this season, considering how much talent you lost from last year and how many new players are stepping in?
I think just making the playoffs again, having a winning season. Every year we talk about let's not go backwards. So if we can just continue to with a winning season and make the playoffs, that'll keep us from going backwards. And that keep the program and hopefully the culture going in the school, that making Colonel, keeping them on the map as a winning program.
All right, James Jackson, thank you so much for coming down here.
Thank you.
And good luck this season. Delmarva Sports Insider returns right after this.
Hey, I'm Austin Alexander with Colonel Richardson Football, and you're watching Delmarva Sports Insider. Back to some Henlopen squads. The Indian River Indians had their most impressive season in almost a decade last season. They finished 5-4, capturing their first winning record and playoff appearance since 2014. But they didn't just make the playoffs, they won their first postseason game since 2013, destroying St. Andrews 36-0 before bowing out to the state champs in the semifinals 33-0. A tough way to start the season for IR as they play at Decatur on Friday, September 9th. And it was thought that the realignment may have helped Polytech break 500 last year, but they fell 2 games short of that goal. The Panthers last season were in a slightly above average offense compared to the rest of their class, but a slightly below average defensive team. So when you add all that up, you get a 4-6 record with no playoffs last season. This season, the Panthers start at home on the 9th against Al DuPont High School. And the Blue Jays finished 7-2 last season before losing by 3 to Tatnall in the first round of the DIAA playoffs. Last year was their most successful in years, but the team is looking for more this season. The team graduated 2 seniors and now have 9 rising seniors replacing them and a junior class of 20 players on the roster. So this team is seasoned and hungry and ready for their first playoff win in years. Senior QB Kareem Bolden and Avion Matthews lead the way for the Blue Jays in their quest for back-to-back playoff appearances and hopefully for them a postseason victory. Now their district rivals, the Laurel Bulldogs, are the top dog of the 1A until proven otherwise. The defending 1A champs are the only one of the 3 Henlopen teams that actually made it to the title games but actually won the whole thing. Again, they're one of the 3 Henlopen teams that made it to the title games, but they're the only ones that actually won the whole thing. They lose Javier White, who had a monster season for the Bulldogs, including dominating the championship game with 2 first-half rushing touchdowns that gave Laurel a lead over St. Elizabeth in the second that they would never relinquish. But they do return running back Kylese Wilson, the young man who also had 2 touchdowns in that championship game. They always say defending the title is harder than winning the first one because everyone is now gunning for the Bulldogs, trying to knock them down a peg. Laurel's first game is September 1st at Sussex Tech. Now that wraps up our 1A teams in Delaware. Let's send it back to the studio.
Well, let's talk about Y-High football. Last year, you guys really turned the corner. Talk about last year's squad and how you're trying to build off of that momentum.
Last year's squad was a very special group. You know, we had a group of seniors who worked extremely hard, you know, obviously extremely talented. I want to say 7 of those guys are now playing college football, you know, 3 of them playing Division I football. So we had a great group, you know, and obviously we exceeded many expectations that people had, and obviously we were able to get to the playoffs, you know, and win a lot of games. So special group we had.
And one thing about this year's group that's special to you is this is your 4th year. So all of these guys, they're all your guys.
Yeah, actually, I got hired in February of 2019, and as soon as I got the job, I want to say the day after, I went to the middle schools to find out, you know, who that group was. And yeah, 4 years later, these guys are seniors.
So this year, who are some of the leaders that are stepping up for this year's club? Because we lost some great seniors from your squad, but you've got some good leaders in camp this year.
Yeah, absolutely. It all starts around Darius Foreman, you know, 3-year
quarterback.
quarterback. Malik Letherberry, you know, is a senior. Jaden Handy, Makai Johnson, you know, Christopher Wells, John Norman. We got a big group of seniors. I could go on and on. So it's a group of a lot of leaders. Guys with you know, big personalities as well.
Yeah, and for your team coming into this year, what are some strengths that you see for this group going into the season?
First thing that stands out to me, Brandon, I would say is our physicality. These guys are huge weight room, you know, guys who
you guys been posting all summer long. You guys been in that weight room.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, these guys have taken advantage since the week after the season ended. Last year, they've been in there, you know, pretty much every day. We probably had 2 days off, and that was Thanksgiving and Christmas. So physicality is huge, and obviously our speed and athleticism on the perimeter. And, you know, we got a young group of linemen, but, man, I tell you, they've gotten extremely strong, and I'm excited to see what they can do.
And what do you think you guys can do with that speed and athleticism to put them in position to succeed this coming season?
Well, offensively, I believe that we can use our guys in space. We want to get the ball out quick. And let the playmakers be playmakers. And defensively, you know, just trying to create matchups where we can get our best guys against the opposing team's best guys.
What are some things you want to see shored up before week 1 comes?
Well, the word we use the most and emphasize the most is discipline. So anything that has to do with cleaning up our discipline, sharpening our discipline habits will make us a better football team. So, you know, whether if that's just limiting penalties, limiting mental errors, and honestly just capitalizing on opportunities on both sides of the ball and also special teams. And
one more question for you. What do you consider a successful season for Y-High football this year?
Well, my old coach used to tell me that, you know, to turn the program around and get them to a state championship, it takes, you know, 3 to 4 years, and we're in that range, and so that's our expectations. You know, we want to, you know, first take care of the Bayside because it's extremely competitive, but then we ultimately want to go for a championship.
And that's the goal right there, right? State championship this season.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you guys are very talented. Thanks so much for coming in, Isaiah. I really appreciate it. And good
Yeah.
luck this season, all right?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, don't go anywhere. The DSI Coaches Conference continues right after this.
I'm Coach Taylor, Wacomico High School football, and you're watching Delmarva Sports Insider. Roll Tribe.
Let's finish things up with a few more Bayside teams. First, the Washington Jaguars. Greg Lazinski is out, and Mike Drake steps in to head the program. They are looking to get back on their feet after another tumultuous season in Princess Anne. But Coach Drake says he has a lot of competitive kids in camp this year, and they could surprise some people. Washington is at Y-High to start the season. The Snow Hill Eagles made some big strides last fall, winning 3 games. Zaheem Kalik is back for the Eagles this season, and that is a big deal for that offense. He is dynamic. Snow Hill is at Parkside in week 1. And finally, maybe the most talented team in the entire Bayside this season, the Decatur Seahawks. This team is so dynamic with Bryson Coleman, Luke Mergoat, Zachary Baker, and now they are adding David Chandler from Delmar. The Seahawks won 2 playoff games but ultimately fell to Huntingtown. Their games with Ken Island, Y-High, North Carolina, and Easton will be must-see. They open the season with the Bennett Clippers. Now let's send things over to Brandon for our final guest of the afternoon.
All right, now finally we have Coach Coleman from Stephen Decatur High School. Thank you so much for coming down here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, and joining us for the Coaches Conference. Last year, what an amazing team you guys had, a run-and-gun offense like that. It was stellar to watch. And you said that you had maybe the best off-season of any year as a head coach.
Yeah, last year's team was phenomenal. Just coaching guys like that all year. I mean, we had, I think, 9 guys that signed collegiately, and had a couple guys that are playing, Division I and had a couple guys playing Division II. So, it was a great great group. And but this year the new group has really followed it up with having just an unbelievable all season. Probably my 19 years. I mean, I've never had more participation consistently, and that's the biggest thing is we've been consistent. Never had that week where it dropped off, and it's really exciting. Now we changed some things that we did in the off season, pulled back in different areas, and really started to focus on other areas. And so I don't know if that led to increase in our participation, but I do know that we had phenomenal leadership. It started with Luke Murgott, Gavin Salido, Logan Bradshaw, Ethan Bradshaw, Nate Tapley, Bryson Coleman. All those guys were consistently just driving kids to and from workouts.
That's great. And that's great to hear.
Yeah, great leadership. So it's exciting.
Yeah, and last year we saw a lot of success. Obviously, you said that we're going to see a lot of new players for this year's Decatur team. I think a lot of people are expecting a lot of success once again for Decatur, but not so fast. We've got to continue to work at this, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone from my first year having 65 players, to last year having 84. This year we've got our numbers up to about 107.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and so we've had that steady improvement. But this is the 3rd season here, and I really think that that's when you see what type of program you are is over the 3 to 4 year span. Sometimes you get the right group in, you can have 1 or 2 good years, and we definitely had a phenomenal group. So that's the challenge to this young group. We're going to have 24 sophomores up on varsity, and that's probably the largest number of sophomores that I've had on varsity, and many of them are going to be playing, so they got to get battle tested. But I'm excited because they put the work in, and they want to get better every day, and it's fun to coach them every day. So we'll see what happens.
And really quickly, what would be a success for Stephen Decatur this season?
We just want to continue to excel as student athletes and keep making the best people we can. As long as we are competing and conducting ourselves like champions, regardless of where we go, how far we go. Obviously we want to win every single game.
Right.
That doesn't change, but we want to win off the field too. So just continue to do that. Continue to get kids in the school and continue to grow the program, and we want to have an exciting year and really pack the stadium. So I think if we pack the stadium and our guys will continue to mature, I think that's a successful season.
All right. Thank you so much, Coach Coleman, for joining us for the Coaches Conference, and good luck this season.
Thank you. Go Hawks.
Yeah. Can't wait to see the Stephen Decatur Hawks out there on the field, Seahawks on the field later this season. We're all out of time for tonight, but thank you so much to all the coaches who came in today to talk with us. For Devin J. Martin, Cole Howard, I'm Brandon Bosser. Thanks for tuning in.